Hormones are like the gas pedal for your body. They're the thing that tells your body, get up and go, do things, make things. And when you have imbalances in your hormones, they show up in a number of different ways. And we like to categorize those. So if you're a woman and you have hormone imbalance when you're young, we call that PMS. We call that PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. We call that endometriosis. We call that mood changes, and anxiety has a huge component in hormone relationships and dysregulation. We call that acne. We have sleep issues. We have adrenal fatigue issues, which is not really sex hormones, but it's tied together because it's all controlled by the part of the brain called the hypothalamus. So the hypothalamus tells the pituitary, tells the thyroid. Hypothalamus tells the pituitary, tells the adrenal glands. Hypothalamus tells the pituitary, tells the ovaries, tells them all what to do, and they all talk. So they're all related. So sometimes when you have low areas in one particular area, you can get a compensation low as well. And then there's the other components that happens as we go through perimenopause. So when we start to go through perimenopause, we start to notice hormone changes, and menopause, we get severe hormone changes. And the reason is, and I was talking to somebody this weekend, and it reminded me that hormone changes are normal. Like, your body is designed to be able to take over production of hormones as we go through these changes. And we've gotten so taxed as women because our bodies are not designed to handle stress in the same way that men are. Testosterone driven physiology is very different than estrogen driven physiology. And as women, we are very sensitive to external stressors as well as internal stressors like blood sugar issues and chronic infections and food reactions and gut issues, right? So gut being main thing. And it's interesting because when our gut is off, then everything gets off. Like right now, I have a cold sore because my gut is off. I also know that when we end up in high stress, then we have other areas that downstream become problems as well. So let's just recap. When we're in perimenopause and we're in menopause, the symptoms that we experience are going to be things like hot flashes, mood swings, hair changes, skin changes. Our teeth can get loose. Our gums can recede. We can get dryness in our during sex and pain during sex. We can get pelvic floor weakness. We get bone loss. We get muscle loss. We get cognitive functions like brain fog and fatigue. These are not normal. And I'm reminded of this because I have patients who've been patients for long periods of time who have no symptoms as they go through menopause. None. That's normal. And when your hormones are low, it is a massive difference when you take them, and you need them. But the real question that gets overlooked all the time is, why are they low? And if you don't address those upstream issues, then you have to stay on hormones. And anytime you take something, your body can't regulate it as well, right? Because it's not controlling how much is being outputted. It can't regulate what's going on with production as well. So you really have to go in, ideally you go into perimenopause, which is where your body starts to change and your adrenals can then take over function. But if we have been taxing those for years, they can't do it. So when we look at dysfunction in women through perimenopause and menopause, then we start to have all these symptoms which aren't normal. But taking hormones, if you do, they need to be bioidentical. And you also need to fix upstream. Sometimes we support hormones just with adrenal precursor hormones because the adrenals are so taxed. And you don't actually need hormones externally at all because they do have some impacts. And so in men, when they have hormone dysregulation, we call that andropause. That's when their testosterone gets low. And now you're seeing low testosterone clinics everywhere. This is big business. But here's the downside. Whether you're a man or you're a woman and you take hormones, you atrophy the gland. What that means is you shut down your own production because you have it being taken in. Your body's like, I don't need more. And so that is never a good thing. So anytime that you go on hormones, you want to go on because you need them because they're low, but you want to look upstream for the issues that need to be fixed, right? And this is going to be gut, this is going to be blood sugar, this is going to be inflammation. And then you want to fix those things so that you can then exit hormones and get off of hormones so that you don't lose function forever, because you can. In men, testicular atrophy, where their actual balls shrink, is very real. And then they can't produce their own testosterone, and you're on that forever then. That's terrible. And nobody tells you these things. So hormones are really, really a big deal. The other thing that's really important to note about hormones is that they're on top of your gut functioning. So you clear, especially estrogens, out through your GI tract, and you can overclear or underclear depending upon how the microbiome is going. And those estrogens can then be, that are being thrown away, can then be reabsorbed. So you have these junk estrogens having impacts on like maybe your thyroid or your other body parts, and they don't work quite right, and your body doesn't make more, and so then you get these big fluctuations, and that's one of the mechanisms for it. Of course, production being the other one. So when we think of hormones, you want to think of hormones as the gas that makes you go, right? That's important. And then you want to think of balance instead of high or low. And then you want to think upstream, like, can your body make it? And because it's the best part, it makes it the best, right? It makes it on a microsecond level what you need, and it controls it very tightly. And then can you clear things because your gut's working properly? And is your blood sugar even so that you're not taxing your adrenal glands so that you can actually make your hormones? If you have anxiety, I'm just going to tell you right now, especially as a young person, you need to get your progesterone checked. It's a really big deal. It's chronically low. Progesterone is like the regulatory molecule for estrogen, right? So you want to have estrogen, but then you want to have it regulated. And progesterone is the one that does that. And then you want to also have testosterone, because testosterone is a creation, like it's a get up and go. And so, but they have this very intricate dance, and it's not just those compounds. You also need to see what's going on in the rest of the compounds. You have like 15 different hormones in your sex hormones, and it's not just estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and you need all of those different molecules. And so it's important to check those, and we use a Dutch test to check them. And if you aren't getting a Dutch test done, then you're not really looking at your hormones sufficiently. And if you're not also looking at your adrenals, then you're not looking at your hormones sufficiently. So we look at testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, but then we also look at what's called estrone and estriol. We look at the breakdown products of it. We look at the precursor molecules. We look at the adrenal components, the cortisol, pulsatile through the day, because it's highest in morning, lowest at night. And then we look at that in relationship to DHEA, so we can see if your body's stealing to make it. DHEA is also necessary to make estrogen and progesterone and testosterone, right? So it's that pathway that is going to be really important to produce those. So we look at all of those, and then we also look at your blood sugar. We also look at your thyroid. We also look at your red blood cells and white blood cells. We do a lot of different lab testing to really get this whole picture, and you need to have that whole picture, not just the hormones. So hormones are important, and you need them. So make sure they're balanced.